Washington, D.C. metropolitan. My name is Freeman, and thank you for joining us for another power-packed message of Untold Stories from Rwanda. In today's broadcast, we have quite a treat for you guys. One of our brothers, he's a king, and you guys just gonna have to be treated like kings and queens today. So he nearly became a child soldier, but for a momentary sleep out, saved his life. Our conversation today is going to be moderated by none other than our brother, Claude Gatebuke, who's a king himself, and our dear queen, Delphine Yandamutso. And without any further ado, please allow me to ask my brothers and sisters up here to take it away and let it take place. Claude Gatebuke, can you hear me, brother?
For the platform this morning. Looking forward to this conversation with my fabulous co-host, Delphine Yandamutso. And to begin this conversation, as Freeman just said, this is a power-packed message. This is an inspirational story. This is one of those stories you hear. There is tragedy, there is survival, there is resilience, but there is hope. And there is humanity in this story. It's very inspirational. It's one of those stories that you hear and you go, wow. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with my story, my name is Claude Gatebuke. I experienced war and genocide and survival in my very early, before I was a teenager, and then in my early teens. I was able to survive, and today, one of my mission is to make sure that the world understands and knows what kind of things children go through when they experience these things. And today we have a guest that's gone through these things as a child also. And so it's an honor for me and for my co-host to host Rubens Mukunzi, and for him to share his story and for him to inspire you in the audience, to inspire us and you into action, into doing something helpful so that no children go through this. And this is something that we can actually achieve, because the type of tragedies that we're talking about are man-made. These are human-made tragedies. And before we start, I'd like to recognize our sponsors for today. HMG Studio, very grateful for the platform. Friends of the Congo, Black Star News, and the African Great Lakes Action Network, or AGLAN. We are very thankful to our sponsors. Now, today, the way the conversation is gonna go, but before we do that, the survivor that we're talking to is a survivor from Rwanda. And Rwanda is a very small country. For many of you following this program are unfamiliar with the story of Rwanda. All right. I apologize. We were having some technical difficulties in the studio. Now, for today's conversation, we would like to make sure that, again, our goal is to make sure that we highlight stories of children in wars and genocides. And the story is from Rwanda. Rwanda is a small country in Central Africa, Central East Africa. It is right next to the Congo. And for many of you who follow global news, it's the place where we recently had a volcano eruption that displaced hundreds of thousands of people in the town of Goma. Today, we also, in our focus on our conversation, we have, this is the country that's well known for its genocide of 1994. The 1994 genocide took many lives, and our survivor today survived this genocide. It's also well known for its, the film Hotel Rwanda, which also talks about this genocide. And the hero, the real life hero of this genocide, is under serious repression and torture in the country, in Rwanda. And so we'll touch a little bit on that, but we want to put a focus on our guest. And let me just check in with the studio real quickly. Studio is my co-host Delphine available, or are we experiencing technical difficulties? So we can just go ahead and start with our guest, and she can join us as soon as. Okay. And so our guest today is Mr. Rubens Mukunzi. He is an award-winning journalist and someone that survived tragedy, not once, not twice, but many times, and shares his story to empower others. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Rubens to the show. Welcome to the show, Rubens. Please share with us as you start. How did you, as a child, survive the genocide in Rwanda, and what happened to your family? It must be a very emotional time for you right now, because as you shared, this is the time when you were going through some really difficult times around July 10th in 1994 as a child, being separated from your mother, and so many other things that happened around this day. So please do share with us, how did you survive? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gatebuke, for having me today. As you mentioned, my name is Rubens Mukunzi. I am Rwandan, and I was born and grew up in Rwanda. Like you mentioned, in 1994, when the airplane was shot and killed the president Habyarimana with the Burundian president Ntaryamira. I remember that time in the night of April 6th, I left Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, to go to visit my mom in southern province, which was at the time Butare.
Rubens, just to let me stop you real quickly for the sake of the audience. Many in the audience do not know about the shooting of the plane. So the plane that was shot in Rwanda was the plane carrying the Rwandan president at the time, Juvenal Habyarimana. And this attack,
and the Burundian presidency, Claude.
Correct. The Burundian president, correct. Thank you. And that is the very first act of the Rwandan genocide. This was the first attack, the first murder, the first killing that started the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. So please continue. Right. So you go to visit your mother in southern Rwanda.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, that was in the night of 6 when the airplane was shot and killed the president of Rwanda and Burundi. And in the morning, that was April 7th, was the time that my mom came to me was in the morning around 6 or 5 in the morning, and she told me that the president Habyarimana was killed and died. So since then, we lived in fear. And of course, we didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We knew RPF was fighting, and the Habyarimana government was in the process to talk with the RPF so that they can have like one government to bring the RPF soldiers to be involved in the power. Since then, on April 6th, the things became worse.
This is April 6, 1994, right, Rubens?
That's April 7 in the morning.
And then the RPF, when you refer to the RPF for the sake of the audience, these are the rebels who were fighting against the government at the time. And today, the RPF is the party in power in Rwanda, led by Paul Kagame. So I just wanted to make sure that the audience understands the context.
You're right. And just to remind that the RPF started fighting in 1990, October. So yeah, they have been fighting to get the power, of course, for a long, let's say maybe about 4 years, and then they shut the airplane. So in the morning of April 7, everybody was confused. Not only I and my mom and my family, but every Rwandan heard that the president was killed, everybody was confused. We didn't know what was going to happen after that. It was a complete a crisis. So then I remember that time, of course, as a Hutu family, uh, my mom's side was majority of Hutu, but we were mixed with the Tutsi family, and some of our family members were Tutsi. So that time, every Hutu was confused, every Tutsi was confused. And I want just to mention that when people say that the genocide was prepared before the airplane crash, I don't think it's right because that time every Rwandan didn't know what was going on. So after 7, 8 April, it was still confusing, but then after like about 2 weeks, we get to know that the Tutsi was targeted to be killed. I remember before we flee our home, we will flee sometimes from our village to go to other village. And in Butare, the massacres started. This is crazy because people were expecting the killing to start or to come from Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, but were surprised that the killing came from the other side, from Gikongoro. So when we saw people burning houses and killing people, we had to flee from our village to go to other villages. Yeah, we spent some nights and then we'll come back in the morning hoping that everything will be fine. Then we'll flee again. So they started killing Tutsis. Oh yeah, I saw and I know many Tutsis were killed that time in April and May. And some of them, they had to flee the country to go in Burundi because Butare is really near to Burundi country. That time was really struggle. And I remember in my family, like I mentioned, were mixed with the Tutsi and the Hutu. We had to hide one of my cousins. And this guy, when you hide a person in genocide time, that time from April to before the massacres start, it was really risky. We had to take him in our house, sometimes under the bed, and sometimes we take the guy on the roof because when we knew that the Interahamwe are coming to try to find people that you hired in your house, then you will be all killed.
And Rubens, again,
yeah.
for our audience, Interahamwe are the militia, the extremist Hutu militias who were hunting down Tutsis during the genocide, just so that they understand.
Correct.
So
yes, and just to keep the story, I remember one morning my mom sent to one of our best family, the Tutsi, to go and see if maybe we could evacuate the family to bring the kids and to hide them in our house. But when I went in the morning, I found out the whole family was gone, and then we heard that the whole family was killed. That was a very sad story that I had during the genocide. And we all lived in this kind of fear without even hoping that in the morning you woke up and keep living the normal life. It was really a violence. People were so brutal. And we saw terrible things when you see somebody killing a Tutsi because that person is a Tutsi. It was a really threatening life and a scary time, of course. But then we end up by hearing that the RPF was fighting and they end up to get the city of Butare. That was actually was in July on 4th. If it wasn't on 4th, it was maybe on 3rd. And then we had to flee our house to go by, I don't know if maybe you know Kibeho. Kibeho is, I don't know how you can explain that, Gatebuke. Can you help me?
Yeah, Kibeho is an area in southern Rwanda, and it's also mostly known for the, I believe it's like apparitions. I believe that's what they call it. Like it's a religious, something religious that happens where people go and they supposedly they see they pray, and they also like they have these apparitions of the Virgin Mary. So it's also the home of, for those of you who are familiar with the beloved gospel singer who was assassinated in Rwanda in February 2020, Kizito Mihigo. So just want to share a little bit about that. But it's in southern Rwanda, southwestern Rwanda.
Thank you so much. Yeah, of course, Kibeho, when we were trying to flee to go to Kibeho, it was far away from our house. It would take about 1-2 days. So that time, we saw the Habyarimana army fleeing too, but it was including some RPF soldiers. So we couldn't get to Kibeho city. So my mom decided to come back to our home. So we come back to our home, and she said, if the RPF soldiers kill us, they will kill us, because we knew that they were killing people. And remember, they started killing people in 1990 when they started the war against Rwanda. So we went back to our home, to our village, and it's where we had to wait until the RPF soldiers came to evacuate our families and some people from our village. That time, we were lucky because we knew that RPF soldiers were killing people in our other villages. But remember that time, many Rwandans were fleeing to go, like I said, to Kibeho. In the north, were fleeing to go to Goma in Zaire. Today is Republic Democratic of Congo. And on the village were few people left because everybody will flee because we knew that RPF were killing us.
Rubens, we have a clip of when you returned home, what the area was like, the area where you're from. So studio, would you please load up the video? Just so that the audience can see what it was like when you went back home.
Mm-hmm.
The area is deserted, and the longer the people take to return, they will not plant, they will not sow, and they will not reap any of the crops of the season. In certain areas, RPF soldiers gathered the population in order to protect them or to control them better. Last time he came here, he was accompanied by RPF soldiers.
Il accuse les soldats du FPR de l'avoir pillé, mais il n'y attache pas trop d'importance.
He says that the RPF soldiers looted his place, but he says this is unimportant. Just like many other Rwandans, Florien wonders and has questions about the new regime in Kigali. The rebuilding of the country is the stated goal by the RPF, and I would love to be a part of it. I would love to help in the rebuilding. This is such a noble goal, but what I'm seeing sometimes really scares me. Before, it was said that the previous government, the government of Juvenal Habyarimana, was a government, an Akazu government.
Akazu, ça veut dire pratiquement un club.
Akazu government, meaning a small clique, a small powerful clique was in power, or a club. It's such a system where the people on the inside have all the privileges and the people.
Comment imaginer que des actes de vengeance ne soient pas commis?
Why pretend that revenge killings did not take place. Rumors and reality are circulating that approximately 500 Hutu people were removed from this Rango refugee camp, taken and killed in a military camp, and no one was able to visit. And the toll of people killed in revenge killings continue to grow. In fact, the RPF recognizes that there are individual acts of revenge and they condemn them and that they will bring them to justice. The person in charge of the camp, his name is Mark, grew up in Zaire all his life. He's in charge of distributing food, material, and indoctrination of the refugees or internally displaced people. Our questions make him angry.
Non, il n'a pas de problème ici.
Now, please leave us alone, go away, and come back tomorrow. We've got work to do. Is that okay? Thank you, studio, for running that clip of the return home of the refugees. Before we proceed, Rubens, with your testimony, I want to welcome my fabulous co-host, Delphine. She's back. She's got her, Delphine Yandamutso. Her technical difficulties have been sorted. So welcome, Delphine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Claude. And I do apologize about that technical difficulty. And I just wanted to say hello to everyone who's watching. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to start with you guys, but I had a technical problem. And also welcome, Rubens. It's good to have you with us today. Thanks, Claude, for starting the show. And we'll keep going. Yeah.
All right. So Rubens, as we just saw in the clip, basically, as you were saying, testifying yourself, the RPF was killing people when they returned. And it was ghost towns, and people were basically concentrated in certain places. And the clip itself says the RPF was gathering people in certain places so that they can control the population, and also indoctrinate the population. So keep going with your...
Remember, Claude, that time I was in my 14 years old. I was very young. But I saw by my eyes the video or the documentary film that you watched. It's part of the life that we're living that time in Butare. Because as Lorien Hezimana mentioned, and Lorien Hezimana is my uncle, that's in our village where we're living in. And when the RPF came to gather us and to try to control us, they took us from our village to the city of Butare. It's about 7 or 8 kilometers. But from our village to the city of Butare, we walked about 5 to 6 hours. We were seeing people killed on the street. And those people were killed by the RPF, of course. So we're about 50 to 60 people, women and men, and kids, of course. And I remember they took us to one of the little center. So they told us to stay. And I'm thinking maybe they were trying to decide either they kill us or they take us to the refugee camp in downtown in Butare. Then they end up by taking us to downtown in Butare, where was a lot of refugees from all over I don't know if it was really all over the country, but some of them were from Kigali, some of them were from Gitarama. But then they took us from the downtown of Butare to Rango Center. It's where they started this killing. But this killing that Laurier was mentioning in the small video was really organized. You see, the Interahamwe will wake up in the morning and go and kill Tutsi. And there will be dancing and feeling proud to be killing people. But the killing with the RPF was very well organized, and it was systematic. When I see this, it's because when you get to Rango Center, maybe you will see the video or you saw the video, they took us to a refugee camp. So we had to wait until our village get security. That's what they told us, because they said, okay, so you have to quit here to go in Rango because it's not safe. We may come and fight with the Interahamwe. So it was sounding like they're saving our lives. But then in the Rango refugee camp, they started choosing people. They started, first of all, by saying, okay, we're going to give you food, and everybody will come to get food, of course. Everybody will show up to get food. And then they started saying that they want people go back to their village, and that they wanted people to go to work. That was maybe in August. It's when they started to gather people and bring big trucks, put the people or the refugees in big trucks, and saying that they take these people to their villages, back maybe in Gitarama or in Kigali, wherever. In Rango, I don't know exactly how many people or how many refugees were in the refugee camp, but it were so many people. So starting bringing big trucks, we're hoping that the thing will be better. But we will hear people saying different, with the rumors saying that these people that the RPF soldiers are taking from refugee camp, when they leave the refugee camp, they go and they kill them. We wasn't sure because we never had that chance to see the RPF killing people. And they'll bring again the truck because they'll say, okay, so we take you to your village, we take you to go to get food, and people were happy that things were getting much better. So that's how in the video, they mentioned that at least 500 people were killed by RPF soldiers. This is the number that the journalist mentioned. But I know, because I personally, I saw by my eyes trucks coming like twice a day and take people, refugees in the refugee camp with all their stuff, put them in the trucks, take them away. And the fact is that these people that they took from refugee camp, they never got home. They killed them. Some rumors were saying that these people from Rango, they killed them to the area called Kabutare. Okay. And the RPF soldier will burn these bodies of these refugees that they were bringing from Rango, from different places, to hide the fact that they killed people. So that's why I mentioned that these killings that RPF committed in 1994, especially in July and August to the end of 1994, was very well organized. And going back to my village, yes?
You're saying basically it was very systematic, because even though the clip is saying that they killed 500, but you're saying more people were killed, and it was systematic in the way they came. They loaded people up on these big trucks, and they did it all day, every day. And every day they took these people, and no one was found. So those people were eventually killed. But how many days did this go on for before you talk about going to your village?
Maybe I can't get the exact number. The journalist mentioned 500, but
I'm asking for the days. How many days did they bring these trucks all day, every day, loading people? Do you know?
The days was depending on the situation. There was what they called the meeting. In Kinyarwanda, we call the we call that Inama. So they'll call people to come to the meeting to talk on how they should go back to their villages. And thousands of people, of refugees, will come to the meeting. And then if people decide to go back, they'll bring trucks, maybe on Monday, and then the trucks will come back on Wednesday, and maybe, let's say maybe 3 days a week. But the trucks will come to load these refugees. One truck will maybe load like, maybe not 100, but about 50, even more 50 people, one truck. And per day, they'll bring maybe 4 or 5 trucks. So you can imagine how people will go and being killed in a 1 week.
Yeah.
And this happened between July to September. Because even my family, I and my mom, they forced us to go back through the truck. And then our people said, no, we don't want to go in the trucks, because we knew that the people that they'll load in the trucks, they'll kill them.
Yeah, thank goodness that you did not go on the trucks. So these systematic killings, when how did you ever get separated, or were you always with your mom, this whole time, or were you ever selected for anything?
Oh yeah, there's one time when we'll think from our village, we'll sit down the Reno Center area. RPF soldier came, like I said, we're about 50 people, 50 or 60 people. And then they said, hey, who was official in Habyarimana government? People were quiet. And then they say, who were students? And one old man who was sitting behind me and my mom said, oh yeah, this guy Rubens he's a student. And that guy, the soldier, chose me, say, okay, come with me. So they took me outside of the house where we were sitting down, all of us, and he asked me a lot of questions: which school I was going, how old I was, what I was planning to do. So to show you that they will choose people who are maybe kind of smart, or people who are responsible, or people who are really involved in Habyarimana government. So I don't know how this happened, but then he ended up saying, okay, go back and sit down. We'll tell you what is next. So I was like that day, because the same day, one of my cousins tried to jump from the house where we were sitting in the, it was a destroyed house. So when he tried to jump, the RPF soldiers shot on him, but he was lucky that day he survived. By then they killed him when he was trying to join us in Rango refugee camp. They killed him. The other thing happened to me when we were in in this Rango refugee camp. I remember, like I said, they'll come to gather people. Sometimes they'll come and say, okay, we want young guys to go to army. That was the time that every teenager was confused. And the only chance that time to survive was to go to military. Like I said, I was 14, 15, almost 15. And my only hope to be able to protect my family and to feed my family, it was to go to the army. The day I and my other cousin, who was Tuti, we went to visit a family. Actually, I remember he was dating a woman from Burundi in a refugee camp. So my other friend, his name was Anibar, and went to the same school. He was my cousin too, but he was Hutu. So my other cousin was Tutsi and my other cousin was Hutu. This guy that went together to visit a family, when we came back, we found that the RPF was gathering these young guys to go to military. Those was young teenagers of 13, 14, 15, 16 to 20. And those people was hoping they're going to military, of course. But guess what? When we came back to the village, we found the tracks were going away. I and my other cousin, who was Tutsi, we ran behind the tracks, trying to jump in the tracks and to go to military. My friend Anibar, who was Hutu, sometimes I get emotional when I talk about this story, because Anibar was, I don't know, maybe I can say he was my brother, he was my cousin, he was my everything. And he was on my age. So I saw Anibar and he was saying, hey, Rubens, come and go to the military. In the track, it was a lot of young guys, about 50 to 60 people, singing, dancing. And if I remember, it was about 2-3 trucks loading these guys going to military. All these, including my friend Anibar, they went to the military. And I remember that time when we got lucky, of course, but we wasn't really happy because we didn't get this chance to go to military, to be a soldier. I and my other cousin, who was Tutsi, were even feeling nervous why the tracks, or why we missed the track. So we went back to our family, and of course, we're hoping the trucks will come back to take us to military. But we didn't get this chance, which is not really a chance, because all these people went to military were all killed. The same way they killed these refugees from the refugee camp.
When did they get killed?
When they get killed?
Yes, so Claude was trying to say, to clarify, what happened. And again, we're so sorry about, all that stuff and all your cousins and friends that were lost. I was trying to clarify and, when or how did we know that the young people who were taken, they were killed?
Excuse me, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, we were trying to clarify that when or how did we know that these young people who were taken to be children soldiers were killed?
Yeah, these people were taken to be killed. And like I mentioned, we get to Rango Center in July. Actually, it was around these dates. It was around 11, 12. And when they started to load these people in the trucks, it was in between the end of July to August, to September, because September is the time I and my family went back to our village. But of course, when we went back to our village, a few people were left, were killed too. But these people were killed trying to go to military or to join their villages, were killed in between the end of July to September. That's what I know.
Thank you so much, Rubens. And again, we do apologize. Sorry, we comfort to you and your family and those people who were lost. And thank goodness that you survived. Like you said, some maybe at the time you thought that you missed a chance, to go on that track, but that was your survival. So we glad that you survived that. Unfortunately, those people didn't come, those young people. So we sorry for their loss and for their families. And also, you mentioned something that when you come back, the way it was a ghost town. So would like to load up a clip showing how when you came back, how the village was like a ghost town, if I may say. Studio, if you can please load that clip for us. Thank you.
Ce vieil homme,
This
un Hutu,
old man,
est le nouveau
a
responsable
Hutu,
de la colline.
is the
Sa
new
famille n'est pas
official
encore revenue.
in this area. His
Nous
family
accompagnons son
has
frère,
not
un
returned
théologien,
yet.
père de 4
We
enfants,
came with
venu se
his
rendre compte de
younger
l'état de
brother,
la maison
a
familiale,
theologist
celle où ils ont
who is
grandi.
coming, a father of 4, who's coming to visit the rest of his family. Lorian
Lorien a survécu par
survived
miracle,
by
et il a pu
miracle,
sauver en
and
détachant
he
un
also
grand
hid
nombre de
a
personnes.
whole lot of other people.
Dans leur
In
famille,
their
ils étaient
family,
9,
there were
mais ils ne sont
9,
plus que 7.
but only
Un
7
de
are
leurs frères, une
left,
de leurs sœurs ont été
with
tués
one of their
en protégeant
sisters
des Tutsis.
and their brother being killed for hiding Tutsis.
Et les Hutus, les Tutsis, ils vivaient sans problème.
So Hutus and Tutsis lived together in harmony. Yes, they lived together in harmony. Yes, especially here in the south, it was there were no problems. In fact, killers had to be brought in from outside. For example, the hill over there was burnt up by arson from the Gikongoro area. And other areas also organized to resist the killings. And it wasn't until the speech by the president, Theodore Sindikugabo, here in Butare, it's his speech that set it on fire, that sparked the genocide.
Et que ceux qui
in Butare.
disent Nibindeva, ça veut dire ça ne me regarde pas, qu'on les écarte aussi. Je ne sais plus dans quel terme il a dit. Babadukize en Kinyarwanda, ça veut dire mais.
He asked explicitly that they kill those people, and that those who claim to be indifferent or uninvolved, that they also are set aside, put aside. The words he used in Kinyarwanda translate to get rid of them.
Est-ce que c'est explicable? Je ne crois pas. Et parfois, ça dépasse la raison humaine. On voit vraiment qu'on est descendu dans des profondeurs.
Is it justifiable? Is such an act justifiable? The horrors, those horrors, are they justifiable? Can you explain that? Can this be explained? I don't believe it can be explained or justified. And sometimes it's beyond human understanding. We descended way down to the bottom of the barrel. We can understand hate, but these acts and how long they lasted 3 months. It's not understandable. And everyone fell for it, including the greatest of people. I don't understand it. Even the best, the
Thank
greatest.
you, studio, for playing that clip for us. Yes, Rubens, it looks like it was really, there was no life there. What can you talk to us about, can you tell us about that? And also we saw your uncle who was, talking. Can you tell us something about it, please?
Yeah, the video shows how my village was looking like. And the place that you look in the video is the place where the RPF soldiers took us to take us to Rango refugee camp. So that's my village. That's where I was grow up. And at the time we came back, those kids that you're watching was at my age at the time. Now they're grown up. And the time we came back to the village, it was completely empty, like Lorien Hezimana mentioned in the video. And you maybe ask me how the whole village was. Remember, many of our people they fled the village to go to Kibeho. Others, they fled the area to go to the RPF site. So which means who didn't flee the village was killed. And the time from July to September was the time that the RPF was controlling the area, which means whoever tried to stay on the village was killed by the RPF. And of course, some of my other neighbors, some of my other cousins were killed by RPF.
I want to ask this because every time we hear about the genocide in Rwanda, we always hear the RPF stopped the genocide and they stopped the killings. But you keep saying that they killed people. They were killing people. Even the clips say that they were killing people. Were they, was it the genocide continuing? Were they killing Tutsis? Were they killing Hutus? Were they killing everybody? What were they, what was the RPF doing? And because a lot of the audience probably they don't know that the RPF, which was a Tutsi rebel, was also killing people, which at the time now, they've already taken over the country. They're no longer a rebel group. They are in charge of the government, led by Paul Kagame, who is also, who was a returning Tutsi refugee.
Again, to answer your question, the targeted people to be killed by RPF was, of course, Hutus. But in this mass killing that I saw myself, that RPF committed, of course, I know majority were Hutu, but there is other Tutsis who were killed in this killing. I'm giving you an example. Like those young guys who were trying to go to military, when they were calling them to join the military, they didn't really know that they were Hutu or Tutsi. Of course, they were trying to target Hutus. But soon they get to the area where they're going to kill them. Sometimes they will ask who are Tutsi and who are Hutu. And these young guys, of course, if they're Tutsi, they'll be proud to say, oh, I am Tutsi. And then they'll take them away. So which means the Hutu will stay and they'll kill these Hutus. But in killing these people who are majority Hutus, some of them could be Tutsis or mixed of Hutu and Tutsi. I know a guy, when they say Hutu or Tutsi, people just look the faces. And the guy was looking like a Tutsi. So when they were going to kill him, when they were trying to separate Hutu and Tutsi, one soldier, RPF soldier, came and told him, "Hey, you're not Hutu, and we don't want you to stay in this area. Go away." The guy, he was really he wasn't happy because he wanted to go in military, that was a lie. Of course, it wasn't to go to military, but it was about to kill them. So that's how the guy escaped. He was a Hutu, of course, but his face was looking like a Tutsi. And that's how he escaped the killing. But the targeted people to be killed was Hutu, of course. I hope I answered your question, Claude.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Rubens. It sounds like it's a tragic, and I guess it's like Claude was saying, it's different from, I guess, the general narrative, but that's the reality of yours and of so many. So thank you so much for sharing. In the clip where we saw your uncle, he talks about having hope in the RPF. So what can you tell us about it? Because he was having hope, but also you talked to us about what happened to you and the other children, and and in the area when the RPF took over. So what can you tell us about that?
Again, after RPF took the power in July, and they established the government, that was on 19 July 1994, I remember, when the President Bizimungu, who was a Hutu, became the president. And that time I remember, of course, I was in the Butare downtown. We were hoping with the RPF, things will get better, like Laurier mentioned in the video. Because from April, when they shoot down at the airplane, they were killing Tutsis. Tutsis were killed by what called Interahamwe. And when the RPF arrived, we were hoping they would stop the massacre, the killing. But it never happened. It never happened because even the time we went back to our villages, they will come in the night, of course, with a target of the people who were officials, people who were soldiers, people who were businessmen. And they will take them and they'll kill them. So this killing continued even after the RPF took the power. So my uncle saying that he had a hope. Of course, everybody had a hope that the killing will stop, and that whoever is Tutsi or Hutu or Twa, sometimes we forget the Twa, will be in peace. But this never happened. Of course, people who were targeted at that time were Hutu or any Tutsi who trying to support Hutus. If you are Tutsi and you're trying to support Hutus, then you'll be killed. And it's still happening even today.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I think that's what your uncle was talking about in the clip. And there are so many people who say that who refer to RPF killing, of Hutus or of everyone as revenge killings. Is that correct? Because it sounds like it was like systemic. The way you I guess you talked about the time they'll come at the night and choosing and selecting. So what can you say about people who say that they're killing, who try to justify their killing or saying that it was a revenge killing?
They are killing what? Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, that's people who try to justify that the RPF killing was a revenge killing, or it was
I understand your question.
Who try to justify it? What can you say about that?
I understand your question. Again, when the RPF took the power, of course, it happened some revenge. Yeah, seriously, revenge. Some of their soldiers came back to their villages and they were Tutsi, and they found out that their families were killed by Hutu. They revenge by killing the Hutu on a village. But these mass killing that people are saying that RPF committed were very well organized. And whoever trying to say that RPF committed these crimes, of course, you become enemy of RPF or enemy of the country. But this happened. We have facts. This is a small example of my village, of this mass killing that I saw myself. Of these people disappeared in 1994. After 27 years, we never seen these people coming back to our villages. So where is these people? They still alive? Look, all these trucks were loading people to go to military, to go to different places, maybe going back home. They never came back. Where is these people? I think whoever trying to say that RPF committed this killing, of course, they don't want anybody to say about these things happen. They want just everybody to shut down and say nothing. And which is scary is that at the beginning, the killing was targeting Hutus, of course. But like Laurier mentioned in the video, if you are Tutsi and you're trying to support Hutu, then you'll be killed too. So it's something that we never expected before when the RPF took the power. We were expecting people will be united. Of course, it happened genocide against Tutsi. And we know there was some revenge from RPF. But how people until today, 27 years ago, people are still dying, disappearing. So that's why, just to answer your question, I think it's one of the weapons that the RPF uses to tell people to shut down and don't say about their killing.
Delphine, I want to add something to what Rubens is saying. So thank you for your personal testimony, because what you're saying, there's actually reports, international reports, multiple reports, including a human rights report that showed that in that period that you're describing, when the RPF took over between July and September of 1994, thousands and thousands of people were being killed. Something like 25 to 30,000 people a month were being killed. So this isn't, your village is a representation, or the area that you happen to be in is a representation of something that was much wider spread around the country. And the myth that the RPF came and stopped the genocide and stopped the killings must be removed. And I know most of the audience is probably unfamiliar with this, but the RPF came and they systematically killed people, as you say. They loaded people in trucks. They called people to meetings. And when they got them in the meetings, they gathered them and took them to their killing, the massacre sites. And then they hid the evidence. And this didn't even just start in 94 after they took over. They started in 1990 in Byumba and Ruhengeri in 91 when they attacked Ruhengeri. So starting from 1990 all the way to now, as you just said, it's been 27 years. People are still being killed. People are still being disappeared. Up until even just this week, there are people who are, coming up missing. And the RPF not only killed the people inside the country, they pursued refugees, people who fled from them. Just imagine going after somebody that's running from you. It's like, basically it's like shooting somebody in the back, somebody that's running. And so they followed people in the refugee camps and killed them in the refugee camps. So I think when you think about the fact that they were killing children, babies, like newborns, and they're killing old people, they're killing blind people and disabled people, that this was not just, some kind of simple revenge. And to call it revenge is definitely to minimize, the crimes that the RPF committed.
You're right, Claude. People will call it revenge, but it wasn't revenge. It's good to separate the revenge and the killing that was planned by RPF, because it doesn't really make sense after they took over how they organize this meeting, bring people together, and take them to the track. These are the tracks that we're talking about. But after the tracks, when we get to the village, they'll come to the village in the night, collect men and women that they were targeting, and they'll go and kill them. I remember in about maybe October 1994, October, November, because the November was the time that I started to work with the International Red Cross. But that time, they'll come to the village, not only my village, other villages in the Butare area, bring them, take them away, maybe to the, what they call, it was like a police station. And then we hear from other people that those people were killed. If you go to in Butare region, you'll see many, many places where they kill these people. And of course, they'll try to hide this fact that they kill people. So it's not about revenge. It was a well-organized killing.
Yes, it's so unfortunate, and again, we cannot thank you enough for sharing this this reality. I guess this your truth, your history. That's not easy to share, and also it's like you're saying, it's shared by so many. I remember that where my grandparents was in the north, like Claude said, where in the north where the RPF started when they came first, but not only in the beginning, but also in 1998. I remember that in Ruhengeri, where my grandparents there's so many people, like lots of people, like my cousins and like so many people in the village. They went to those meetings and they never came back. And that was from throughout, from the very beginning until now, people are still disappearing, like Claude was saying. So it's so tragic, and I guess it's so not spoken about. Unfortunately, like you said, Rubens, people are, I guess, scared to talk, or I don't know, we've been so traumatized, I guess, to speak out. So we're encouraging people to really speak out, because your reality, your truth, what you lived is shared by so many. Yes, shared by so many. So unfortunate. I guess continuing on, your story is so long, and it's not only surviving, and so many times, by the way, it's tragic, but also you came out of that, and there's we know that you're known like a cyclist. So can you talk to us about how you moved on, after those survivals, after those, I guess start talking to us about afterwards, because the story is so long. Imagine something that you've lived for so long, you can talk about it in this time. So
Delphine, before we move on to his cycling career, his amazing cycling career, we also saw the pictures of him working for the Red Cross. I want to commend the families, the people. So Rubens, you talked about your family sheltering Tutsis during the genocide, and I commend every person that did that. You talked about your uncle also. They talked about it in the clip. He sheltered Tutsi people during the genocide, and I commend and thank him for that. And I thank everybody that did that. And I say that even from personal experience, because from the day that the genocide happened, 3 days later, we went into hiding. We were sheltered by people, on multiple occasions in various places. And Delphine, I know your story also, and I know that your family also sheltered people. So I want to express the gratitude, but also for the world to know that the reason why so many people survived the genocide in Rwanda is because so many Hutu people sheltered Tutsis in their roof, not the roofs, but the ceilings, in various parts of their houses. Sometimes just warning them, saying, "Hey, the killers are coming. Go over here." That's a very important part of the story, and I wanted to make sure that this is highlighted. It's a very important part of the story of Rwanda, because when you listen, most of the time, all you hear is the RPF start the genocide, when in fact the RPF was a part of the killers. They were killing people all over the place from the first day that they entered Rwanda in 1990 to this day, as you said. But they were good people, and that's why we are here. That's why we tell these stories, so that everybody can now understand that no matter what kind of tragedy is happening, you can take a stand. And as they say, the measure of a person's character is where they stand in times of controversy. And so I didn't want to miss that. I'd be remiss if we went on without really recognizing those people.
Yes, thank you, Claude, for that additional comment. And again, it's something that's shared by so many. And like you said, we're forever grateful for everyone who's saved someone or who's done something to help others during those tragic times. Yes.
Yeah. You want me to go ahead and answer your question, Delphine?
Yes, please. Because I guess talking about that, survival, that was going on, you'd think that someone would just go crazy, I don't know, just stop living, but you didn't. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, being a cyclist, maybe just going back to Gatebuke, a comment about sheltering people. Again, we were Hutu, but mixed with the Tutsis. We didn't have a choice. We had to shelter these people just to save their lives. And I thank God that the people that we sheltered in genocide period, they're still alive.
But Rubens, you had a choice. You had a choice not to shelter them. Many people did that. Today, we still see that today. Like there's so many people who see an injustice and they stay quiet, and they do nothing. They not even raise a voice against it. So you had a choice to do nothing, but you didn't. And so
thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Going back to Delphine's question. After, let's say maybe at the end of 1994, I was lucky to find a job in International Red Cross. This job that I found, maybe going back before 1994, I was in high school, and I was attending art school. It was in the north of the country, Gisenyi. So I was lucky to be a painter, and then I found a job in the Red Cross where I started to paint the logos of International Red Cross I was working in Butare downtown, and that's how I get to know the city and to hear many stories of killings in the area. So if I told you about the killings happened at Kabutare or in the Rango, I know other killings that happened in the Butare. But I found this job. I worked hard. I was the only one to feed my family, my mom and my sisters. And I remember it was a really challenging time. But we had to move on after this killing. And I remember in 1995, no, before I got to 1995, the money that I was getting from Red Cross, because I was working like 2-3 hours away from my village, I had to buy a bike. So when I bought a bike, that was my first money that I touched with a Red Cross. I can't remember how much it was, but I remember I bought a bike, and I had to ride my bike every single morning to go to work. So that's how I get to know how to ride a bike. Of course, I knew how to ride a bike, but I experienced to ride a bike. And then 1995, it started some racing competition in Butare. So I joined the competition, and I can't remember, but I was in about, I was maybe the fifth, something like that, when I raced. And in 1996, we were able to attend the racing in Kigali, in the capital. So that's how I became a cyclist. I was riding a bike for the Butare team. And in 1997, I remember is the time that I stopped racing because we're about to attend the Olympics in South Africa. That time I was working for Red Cross, and when we were trying to race, it wasn't really paying good money. So then I had to stop to attend this competition in South Africa. But yes, like you mentioned, I was a cyclist, and even today I'm still loving riding a bike. So yeah, I'm a cyclist. Yeah, to say it.
Thank you so much, Rubens, for sharing your story. Like, can you imagine like a life, coming from so much tragedy, so much like near-death experiences, and having all that, having to survive, and you are a man of so many talents. Like you painting, we saw you even painting Nelson Mandela's picture, and you cycling and working with Red Cross, and oh my God, so many. It's really good to see you, I guess, flourishing after all that survival. And yeah, thank goodness that you survived. Yeah, and I guess talking about the skills and the career and everything. You also became a journalist, and you were not in the country as Mr. Bean. Talk to us about your career in journalism and also the issues, the concerns that you had in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Delphine. Since I was a kid, my dream was to become a journalist. And I thank God I finally became a journalist. When I was leaving the city, the Butare city, I moved to Kigali. But before I bring this story, in 1997, when I was working for International Red Cross, like I said, I had a bike. And at that time, it wasn't anybody to have a bike in our village. So one of survived Tutsi guy, he saw me riding a bike. I think he was jealous of me. So he took me to the police station, and they took away my bike, and I stayed in the jail about 5 months. Five months. And guess what? He was accusing me that I killed his parents.
Oh, wow.
At his village that I never even know. And that I took the bike. I remember it was a red bike. I loved that bike. So he was accusing me that I killed his parents. So I stayed in the jail. And then after leaving the jail, that was the time that I decided to quit Butare to go in the capital, in Kigali. I went back to school, and going back to school, to the high school, of course, I finished my high school. And like I said, my dream was to become a journalist. I went to literature school. I took literature because I love to speak French. And that time I remember I couldn't even speak in English. But thank God now, at least now I can express myself in English.
Ruben,
I
think you're moving a little bit too fast because you're talking the 90s, right? And you just talked about how they put you in jail, falsely accused you, and you just kind of move on quickly. Like, that was just a blip. I mean, understanding you went through so many tragedies, losing some of your family, your best friend, your brother, so many people, and, you saw people getting killed, but the prison conditions were terrible in Rwanda at the time. The person who at one time, so there was a time when I was also, and there's many, but at one point they actually had me at my own grave. They had me dig my own grave and were ready to kill me. The man who negotiated for me, when he returned to Rwanda, we all fled to the Congo. When he returned to Rwanda, they also falsely accused him, and he stayed in prison for 10 years. This is a person who saved so many people, to the point where one of the people he saved would always bring him food. This woman would get beaten every single day. They beat this woman every single day, but she never quit because she knew he had saved her life. And, he's told me about the prison conditions. I mean, people's feet were rotting because they were like putting water in the prisons. People were getting like killed even in the prisons. How did you survive that experience? Before you jump into going to school, that's another survival story, of the many survival stories you have.
So
Claude,
many.
Going back to be in jail for 5 months, being accused, killed these people and steal their bike. It was, I don't know. I remember when I was in Rwanda, I couldn't even think about it because it was the worst time that I lived in my life. The time I was jailed in Rwanda, of course, I was my 17 years old, 18, like that, not even. It was the time that they arrested a lot of Hutus being accused committed genocide. I myself, as young, I was nothing. I never killed anybody. I never even thought about killing anyone. And I was shocked how people accused me to kill people. So I struggled. I stayed in the jail. It was, I don't know how to explain. But can you imagine like maybe 2 square meters, you put like 100 people. How are these people gonna sleep? And guess what? In the night, a police guy, at that time it wasn't police, it was gendarmerie. They'll come and knock the door and say, Gatebuke, Delphine, Rubens, get out. You get out, you think maybe you're free to go home. By then, these people would disappear. Those are the cases that I know happened when I was jailed in Rwanda. And I was in the right place to know what was going on because I used to work with International Red Cross. We had a lot of people coming, bring us news to what was happening, even in Kibeho. When the Kibeho killing happened in 1995, I think, that was the time that they arrested a lot of people to be jailed. 96, 97 was the worst time. So I spent that time, but I was lucky, like I mentioned, in my family mixed with the Hutu and Tutsis. So some of my friends and family members, cousins, went to testify that I was innocent. I didn't kill anybody. And then I was free to go home. But of course, I spent 5 months in jail for no reason. that's how I decided to go in Kigali and going back to school, of course, then to become a journalist. I don't know if you answered your question.
Yes,
it was
yes.
a long story, Claude, in jail.
Yeah. I just wanted you to describe the conditions for a child, for somebody that's like still a teenager, you know, being put in a prison, those kind of prison conditions, the false accusations. These are the things that, you know, the RPF pretends never happened, that the world does not know. And part of, you know, as you can see on the name tags, you know, our slogan here is the world must know. You know, we want these stories to come out to the world, because when you shine light on darkness, you bring hope. And these type of injustices must be brought to the fore. It must be brought to the public. And so I'm grateful that you can share this. And we just want to take the opportunity to make sure that the audience, you know, can follow and understand, you know, the type of things that you live through. And Delphine, I apologize for interrupting your question.
Let me talk a little bit about how I became a journalist. So in my high school, I was dreaming, of course, becoming a journalist. That was in 2003, I think. But before I finished my high school, I was writing in what we call Imvaho newspaper. I would submit some free articles to be published in Imvaho, and then when I finished, that was 2003, and then the 2004 was the time that we had a chance to have our first private radio station. Remember, even after 94, we had only one radio station, that was Radio Rwanda, which was a national radio. So 2004, I was lucky to join a radio, one of these private radio, Radio 10. I was working as a morning show presenter. I woke up people in the morning at 6 and hey, hurry up, we go to work, playing songs. And that's how I became popular, because I was, even in my morning show, I was talking about this comics and funny things in my morning show. So that's how people end up by naming me Mr. Bean. And Mr. Bean is England comedian, very popular comedian, Mr. Bean. So that's how I get the nickname of Mr. Bean. And I kept working hard as a journalist, but I've been working on other different stuff just to be able to feed my family. Yes.
Wow. That's so inspiring.
Yes. And then in 2009, it was the time that I started a special newspaper for education, which was a Oasis Gazette. And when I started this newspaper, it was about talking different issues happening in Rwanda in education. It was, again, like I said, media wasn't really, we didn't have a lot of media platforms or newspapers talking about education. So I brought this newspaper just to talk about different things was going on in education in Rwanda. Oasis Gazette, to go in high schools, universities. And that newspaper was just to break down these barriers. You know, people will wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, you're not going to keep talking in French, so now you're gonna learn in English." We had a lot of challenges in education, and I wanted just to help the community about education, things that was going on at the time.
Yeah, and that's good. And I guess you have so many talents as you've been describing and everything, and that what you just described there with Mr. Bean and bringing humor. Can you imagine that resilience? You just come from double tragedies, from surviving to being jailed, to being harassed, to having to survive through all that, thinking of feeding the family, and you still found, in your job as a journalist to be funny, to be humorous. So that's something that's really good, and I guess If you can talk to us about how, you know, there was some repression in the journalists, but also later on you talk to us about your current journalism as well, because you're still having that sense of humor. You're helping people, I guess, working through things and being happy. So first, talk to us about, you know, the repression, you know, you and the challenges you received in your journalist career, please.
Oh yeah, being a journalist in Rwanda, sometimes I would say it's like a crime because, you know, a journalist is a person who tries to give information and to be neutral. A right journalist shouldn't be on any side as a politician. And when it comes to criticize the government, you know, you want to make a contribution, but people won't understand that you're trying to make a contribution, to make some changes to what's going on in the community. People will think maybe that's what they call in Rwanda. When you criticize the government, then you become an enemy. So being a journalist on radio, having a very popular show in Rwanda as a Mr. Bean, having a newspaper talking about education, I was very well involved in media. And I think people will pay attention on what I was doing. And becoming popular in Rwanda, it's another issue. When you're becoming a popular, who you were, where you came from, why you becoming popular, who's supporting you? Yeah, those are the challenges. And on radio, we'll try to criticize things that was going wrong. But then with my newspaper talking about education, that's how I get to be targeted. Of course, I was working hard, and my newspaper was one of the popular newspapers in Rwanda, going all over the country, publishing a big number of newspapers. And then the government trying to come to me to see how maybe I can work for them. That was really my tough time that I had in my country, because when I received an advisor from the President Kagame coming to me say, okay, yeah, we have information that you one of the hard worker in media, and we want you to help us to be like a propaganda newspaper to support the power, the RPF power. My newspaper, of course, was his Gazette, and the plan was to switch this newspaper to become a propaganda newspaper, like I say. So I didn't want that to happen. So denying working with them, and then that was the end of my life as a journalist in Rwanda. I received a lot of harassment, a lot of intimidation from high officials, of course. And that's how I get to be in a panic. Because if you're not really with the government and you're not supporting the government, then you become enemy. And becoming enemy in Rwanda means you end up by being killed. Being killed in Rwanda, it's not a joke. We had different people were killed because they were journalists or politicians. They were involved in different sectors. I've been working with Leonard Rugambage, who was killed in Rwanda as a journalist. So that shows you how it's dangerous to be a journalist in Rwanda. And that's how I end up by fleeing my country in 2013 to come here in the United States of America.
Oh my God! Yeah. Sorry, Claude. I was just going to say that your survival, things kept coming, but I'm glad that you refused to, to take side or to be used. You kept your professionalism as a journalist because that's what you wanted to do. And again, you survived again. So I'm glad to hear that. And as you fled as well, you continued to be a journalist, you know. And again, I was talking before. You kept using that sense of humor. You're doing journalism, but also you're finding that. I guess you're talented to bring that humor and to joke about things, and you know, that's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Claude, you're saying something?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Rubens has not only been broadcasting in Kenya, Rwanda when he got to the US, but he also does some broadcast a newspaper in English. And I think the studio has some pictures. So let's start with your Kenya. You're still a popular journalist, and I've seen your co-host. So I got the opportunity today to kick a shout out to my co-host here, Delphine. But now you get the opportunity to kick a shout out to your co-host, who is also in the audience, and her picture is showing of you doing Karibu Time, and Eugenie Gentil is also watching. So talk about
Hi
a little
to
bit about
Eugenie, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and again, that's a great contribution, Rubens. You know, everything you've been doing and you're still doing. So that's a picture of you know, you achieved your goals, your dreams to become a journalist, and at the same time you helping in you know, the Rwandan people, our community to heal. You know, through humor, through the way you present the reality, you know, as a journalist, but in a creative way. So it's really talented. It's good. We appreciate your work. Yeah, so I guess it sounds like, again, sorry, I forgot to mention that. We're sorry about your friend, your journalist who unfortunately didn't make it, and also for all that you had to go through. But we're glad you survived it, and you're here with us today. So that's good. Yeah, I think Claude was mentioning something as well. Claude?
Yeah, so not only did you continue to broadcast, but you also won some awards, you know, and you've been very successful as a journalist in Rwanda and outside of Rwanda. So we just want to share that no matter how much pain you go through, no matter how bad things are, and I hope that some people in the audience who were having a bad day after listening to your testimony, they put their, you know, bad day in perspective. And you know, your resilience is shining through. So that's, you know, we just wanted to commend you on that, for doing that, you know, as we proceed with the interview.
Yeah, thanks for that, Claude. And again, I guess, you know, someone's history, that it's a long one. We cannot I guess tell it all, and hearing from all your experiences and all those like threats and, you know, harassment and everything. But one would wonder, why does the RPF keep getting away with it? And you know, who helps them, or who finances them? Like, what can you talk to us about? You know, what can you say about it?
Who help the RPF? Or...
Yeah, like, because all those things, like, it sounds like what you've been through all throughout. You know, we obviously cannot tell everything because it's a long story. But what you've told us, and what the injustices that you've faced and everything, how does the RPF keep getting away with it with so many crimes in Rwanda?
Again, after 1994 genocide in Rwanda, and after mass killing in Rwanda, of course, and in Congo, I don't think the international community paid attention on what RPF have been doing from 1994 up to date. Like I mentioned, they've been involved in many crimes, killing, and the international community is like they're closing their eyes, which is sad. I don't know if I'll mention that the international community is supporting the RPF, but it looks like they just let them go. And remember, when you bring these genocide stories, people, especially even in this country, in USA, when I talk to Americans here, they think the genocide happened in one morning and they killed people, but not. Of course, before genocide, before this mass killing, there's other things were happening. But people don't think about those. They just look on genocide. And when they say the genocide against Tutsi, they don't want even to hear that the RPF committed this crime. It's very sad. And look, all these activists trying to raise the voice, they kill them. All these people, opposition side, trying to say enough is enough. RPF should stop killing people and let people talk about these issues happening in Rwanda. Nobody will listen to them. Yeah, we have a good example of people like Russia Sabagina, who was kidnapped last time. We have people like Ingabire. We have people like Ingabire was jailed for about 8 years for no reason because she tried to run to be a president in Rwanda. And we have people killed like Kizito Mihigo, who was Tutsi, who say, hey, yes, genocide against Tutsi happened, but there's other people who are Hutu or Twa who are killed by RPF. So to get this reconciliation among Rwandan community, we have to sit down and say how we can unite people. And the RPF don't want anyone to talk about those issues. That's why they killed Kizito. So I'm not a politician. I don't even pretend to be maybe in the future a politician. I love to be a journalist and I'm proud to be a journalist, of course. But I don't think RPF will keep these maneuvers based on lying. When you see the mapping report today in Congo, shows how many people killed in Congo, millions and millions in Congo. That's Congo. But in Rwanda, I don't think it will end like that. And I'm hoping the international community should open one day eyes and say, enough is enough. So for me, it's very sad that we're still losing people in Rwanda. And I'm hoping one day, I don't know if it will be from RPF or the international community, people, Hutu, Tutsi, and the Twa will become together to be one Rwanda. But today, I don't think RPF want to be involved in this reconciliation process. As I was reading news from Rwanda, they said that the Rwandans were reconciliated in about 94%. So, which is, I think it's a lie when you see how people are arrested saying that they have this genocide ideology, that they're trying to criticize the country. So this is a problem.
Everything with the RPF is 90 something, right? Kagame
Yeah,
runs and he wins the election 99%. He gives himself all the votes, you know, and then he gives himself 93% and all of that. So when the RPF is grading
everything has to go up, 90, 90, 90, never go down.
Right.
It's so unfortunate. Again, you know, hearing that, but unfortunately, that's the truth, like you said, Rubens. And I don't know, like you said, probably not. Maybe the international community helping, but also the international community closing like their eyes, like pretty much just, you know, ignoring it or just letting it go. So I guess hopefully with more people, or with thank you for sharing, and with more people sharing, and also more people, I guess, talking about shining the light on the darkness that's happening in Rwanda. Hopefully, there will be a change, hopefully. And like there were some people who were saying that it's hard to be hopeful in the current environment. But the more we talk about the truth, the more we denounce these histories, the more we talk about these realities, the more people will become aware of it. And I guess moving forward, you mentioned something about Congo. You mentioned something about the tragedies in Congo, so many people being killed. And also we've seen you in campaign supporting Dr. Mukwege, the Congolese who fixes women in Congo. He's currently fighting to get international tribunal set up to perpetrators of genocide in Congo and mass rapes and war crimes in Congo. So why are you involved in raising awareness about the Congo? Can you tell us about your involvement, and also what's the drive, please?
Yeah, you're right, Delphine. I'm involved. I'm activist, right? And being activist, it's speak out. Things happen in Rwanda. The International Court of the Arusha Court, we're hoping that they will judge all people who are involved in crimes in Rwanda, in genocide in Rwanda. But as you know, maybe not know, whoever you're watching this show, they just took one side. Of course, people who committed these crimes against us. But we never seen people from RPS to be in front of this court. So today, why I'm involved in this Dr. Mukwege, who's Nobel Prize, his message is clear. From Rwanda, the genocide, the mass killing in Rwanda, to go in Congo, where they say about 6 million, that includes Congolese and the Rwandese, were killed in Congo, maybe including Burundi. This is something that the international community shouldn't close their eyes and pretend like nothing happened. The mapping report is clear. It is clear. And I think it's the right time to denounce whoever who's trying to say that there were no crime in Congo. Last time, maybe you had President Kagame saying that there were no crime in Congo. And we know. So I'm involved in this to raise my voice, to raise our voices as activists, as a journalist, that if the international court in Arusha fails to judge this RPS, we need a special court for Congo to judge these people who committed these crimes in Congo. And who knows, maybe in Rwanda, there will be another court to judge these people. I don't think we should let things go and pretend like nothing happened. And this is a shame for the international community, seeing people dying and say nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I guess I ask that for the audience because I know well about what happened in Congo. Because like we were saying, so many Rwandese have lots of stories, a lot of survival stories. And myself, when I was a child, I was young. My family were refugees in Congo, so I know what happened, and I've seen, what happened. And sometimes it hurts, and it's actually sad that it's not only so many people, even Kabadebe denied it. It's like, where are those? Where are the? How do you say it? Who said people died, or how can you prove it? But where are the bodies? Yes. So it's sad that they say that they can say that, but as a survivor myself and as someone who's witnessed that, and so many of us, so many people who've I guess witnessed it's a shame, like you said, that the international community who has the mapping report, you know, they know, and I guess they choose to look away. So it's sad, but we thank you, and we thank others who are supporting Dr. Mukwege to I guess to claim that justice, to raise awareness. I mean, it's not even raising awareness because they already know, but to persist and to insist that, you know, justice needs to be served, so that I guess we can achieve true healing and true, you know, like it's amazing. We can say so much about it, but I guess that's not what we're talking about today. But thank you for your support to Dr. Mukwege, and we applaud all of the work that you're doing, including, you know, the activism and speaking out and advocating and everything. I guess Claude wanted to say something about that. You're welcome.
Yes, I also want to commend you for your humanity, because so many people, there is one thing that we, I think, Africans have kind of experienced and internalized, which is Africa was cut up in pieces by Europeans. We have these borders, which are artificials, you know, that should not really be there. And there are people who think, like I've heard people who say, why are you talking about the Congo? You know, as if they cut the border differently, I wouldn't be Congolese, or I wouldn't be anything, or as if it makes them less human. And so I really love the idea that both of you and many others, many in the audience also, are not looking at people, you know, just by looking at the borders, that we're looking at human beings and the lives that are lost. As you said, it's a shame to the international community. It's a shame to our humanity to see these things happen and do nothing. And I'm grateful that you're doing something. And I wanted to bring to quote two people that I think, you know, one is very well known historically, Martin Luther King, who says, the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. And what you're doing, the work that you're doing and others, is really bending that arc and speeding up the bending so that it can bend and get to justice. The other is a quote by Frederick Douglass, who is the person that really inspired me into activism. And one of the things that he said, one of my favorite quotes of him, is that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. And if there is no struggle, there's no progress. And those who profess to favor freedom, and yet degrade the men who want to fight and push for this kind of you know, justice, is really they're not fighting for freedom. And if one of us is not free, none of us are free. An injustice, and I heard it in the campaign I want to quote one of the people who spoke in the campaign, Chantal Mutega, who said, an injustice to one human being is an injustice to all of our humanity. And that's what you're living. And you know, I just appreciate the fact that you're doing this, and the many people who have reason to get justice for the victims, because the victims should be walking, and the survivors should be walking with their heads held high, and the perpetrators should be walking in shame. You talk about Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, and Delphine talked about General James Kabarebe, who is one of the biggest mass murderer in the Great Lakes region. My brother Kambale Musavuli from the Congo calls him a criminal without borders. And these criminals without borders, we must call them out. A part of being an activist, a part of shining a light on these crimes, is actually naming and shaming the perpetrators and their supporters, so that they can see that it's not right to commit these crimes. It's not right to think that you're going to get away with these things. And so continue the campaign, and I invite everybody in the audience to join these campaigns to push for justice. not only in the Congo, but the whole region. And I can tell you for sure, we will get it. We will get it, because power will always concede, but it's only going to concede when we make a demand and we protest and we push. And Delphine, I just want to come back to you to continue the conversation. I think maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Claude. Yes, we're getting towards the end of our show today. But before we get to that, I wanted to acknowledge some of the comments, some of the messages that we're getting from the audience. And again, I thank you so much for people who are watching, who are following us. I wanted to acknowledge this coming from Kagoma Egle and Java Wamungu. They were wondering how, there's a thing that I never come to understand, or at what extent would someone be blind and have hope in RPF? There was a complete U-turn in 93 when Mugenzi of PL joined Habyarimana coalition. So he's talking about his own experiences. Java Wamungu, I too don't understand those false hopes some had placed in the RPF. Personally, I knew from day one that there was nothing to expect from those guys. So I guess thank you, Kagoma Egle and Java Wamungu, for sharing your experiences. Just a quick comment on that. Unfortunately, people are, I guess it's in our nature to always be hopeful. And if you didn't face directly or indirectly face against these false hopes or these tragedies, you probably didn't know enough to stop hoping. And also, I guess so many of us, I guess, have been, there's so many people who are so scared to even, people are in denial about the realities they are facing. So I guess it's not as simple as just saying that, oh yeah, this is it, that's the end. But I guess the more we speak out, the more we tell our stories, the more the realities and the more the truth is spoken, more people will be aware of them. So I acknowledge there's so many people who are following us. Thank you guys. Shout out to Evelyn, Eugenie Gentil, yes, Kagoma Egg. There was also another, Rubens, there's so many comments of people who are applauding your resilience and your courage. Rubens, this is from Kagoma Egg. Rubens, you are a very brave and you are a very brave and daring gentleman. After experiencing all those challenges from the government and the criminal regime, you kept going, man. So that's from Kagoma Egg.
Thank you, Kagoma. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes. And Kagoma Egg also said that the international community knows well, they just have chosen to look the other way. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, so many people who are applauding your resilience, they're encouraging, I guess they're inspired by your resilience and the way you survived and kept going. Shout out to Judith Nyiraneza as well. International community knows everything happened and happening now, but they keep quiet because they are only thinking about their benefits in their region. It's really sad. So thank you. There's so many comments. I guess we cannot go through all of them, but we thank you for being with us today. We thank you for all your contributions. And as we get towards the end of, sorry, Claude, did you want to add something?
To that comment, I do want to let everybody following this conversation, when you hear the story of Rubens, maybe it should be clear that, we have to do something. It doesn't matter if they know. First of all, knowing something, having knowledge and not using it, the way I always say it is like having a whole bunch of gift cards and never cashing them at the store. We have to use the knowledge that we have and make sure, because sometimes when people know things, they can ignore those things. But when you make sure that you share those things with them, they cannot ignore them. And if they disregard them, then they also accept the consequences of disregarding those things, because you can ignore things and it's fine, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring those things. And so we must absolutely continue to do our work to inform and raise awareness and demand that that justice be served, the truth be told, and justice be served in the international community, and make sure that we make it happen. We must make sure that we make it happen. So we can't just say they know. Knowing is not enough, but we have to put it so clear, shine the light so bright that they have no excuses to make once the consequences start showing.
Yeah, right. Thanks for that comment, Claude. So Rubens, thank you again for being with us today. If you can please, I guess, speak to the audience, give them your message. What would you like to see them do?
Yeah, thank you again, Delphine. Yeah, again, things happened in Rwanda, in Congo. Things happen in Africa. I think people should raise the voice that this mass killing, genocide, whatever you call it, people will say, no, it's not a genocide. And people say, oh, this is a genocide, this is not a genocide. I'm not about genocide. I just take a look on these people, innocent, killed for no reason. Black, white, whoever you were, Tutsi, Hutu, Twa, whoever you were. How people still feeling to massacre, to kill people because maybe you don't have the same ideology. Maybe you're not the same race. Maybe you're not. Why? So my message today for everybody who watching this show is just, yes, you are a person, of course. Maybe you are a black, you are white, but let's raise our voice for the people who are really victims of these bad regimes, like in Rwanda, in Congo, all over the world. So I don't see if really anybody can be killed for this bad reasons. And if it's a Tutsi that they're killing, if you're Hutu, raise your voice. If you're a Twa or you are a Black or African, raise your voice. Let's stand up and raise our voices. Maybe, like we said, the international community is ignoring this situation. But I'm hoping one day they will open up their eyes and say, we're wrong. Like Gatebuke mentioned, like myself I mentioned, it's a shame. Because things happened in Rwanda in 1994, even before. All this international community was watching and said nothing. After 27 years, they're still watching. So, yeah, we'll keep raising our voices. And I'm hoping one day, my country, Rwanda, Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa will become a one person to unite the country, to be a country where everybody can feel comfortable to stay in. I'm a refugee today in the USA. I wish I could be in my country and serving my country. All the work that I'm working for this country, of course, it's a safe country. But I love to have this work, this hard work that I do to serve my country, but I can't. And I think it's a big loss that our country are having, and I don't see that. So to conclude, thank you again for inviting me in this very important show. And it was a pleasure to be with you guys, Delphine and Gatebuke. And let's keep working together to talk things happening in our region. And I'm hoping one day we'll be in peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rubens. We do appreciate you being here. And I guess also, finishing this show, I want to, first and foremost, be thankful that, you survived. You survived what you've been through. I thank God for the protection. Thank God for the protection of yourself and your family, some of the family members who survived, and other Rwandans who survived as well. Yeah, you survived so many times for a reason, and that's why you're here today, Rubens. And we do appreciate your contribution, your hard work, what you've been through didn't hold you back. So we do applaud that. Yeah, we're grateful that you survived and you're here with us today. And we're also grateful for other people who survived and who are doing what they can to, I guess, to raise awareness, but also some people are still in survival mode, but we're grateful for you for being here today. I would also like to applaud and to thank you for your continued work, and I have I guess a special interest in healing for our people. So I applauded the way you use your career and your talent to providing information. You're doing your journalism, but you're doing in a humorous way. You're bringing hope to people. You're bringing the emotions, because after what people have been through, that Rwandans have been through, some of our people have lost those emotions. So I applaud and I commend your job that you're doing, as funny as it is, but that's your job and that's your way of contributing to people's to Rwandans healing. So
You're
it's
right.
a great contribution, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you for that. And I would also like to. Yeah, I would also like to call everyone who's watching, everyone who's watching to contribute. We have so many stories, so many untold stories. So I would like to call our audience and people who watch this show later on that, we have to embrace our history. We have to embrace what we've been through. We survived for a reason. We survived. So we didn't survive to chicken out, to just sit down and feel sorry for ourselves. No, we survive to tell our stories and to lift others to move on. Like you say, that you greatly inspired us, Rubens, today. That everything that you've been through, some of it you didn't even tell us because it's so much. But you didn't sit down. You didn't give up. So I would like to encourage our audience and people who will follow this later on to tell our stories, to accept that that's part of our history. We're not going to delete it from our lives, but we need to accept it and share it, so that other people can know and also can learn from it. Yes, so thank you again, Rubens, for accepting our invitation. And thank you, Claude, for co-hosting this show. And I'll pass on the microphone to you, Claude, for your concluding remarks as well.
Thank you both. Such wise words. And Delphine, I love how you put it. You say that we didn't survive so that we can chicken out. What a way to put it. Let's not chicken out of our own experiences. Let's tell our stories. Let's share with the world. Let the world know. And I want to echo your gratitude for Rubens' protection. Rubens, I'm so grateful that you survived these things. But not only that you survived, but you've chosen to make the decisions. Obviously, every single one of us that survived was because somebody took a stand, and that you have decided to take a stand. You decided not to stand aside. And this type of divine protection is something that each and every single one of us that's here on set, that's in the studio, that's in the audience, carries. We carry this protection for our fellow human being. We all have a choice and a responsibility to use it. And I'm grateful to those who have and those who continue to do so, like you, Rubens. And of course, we have examples like, besides yourself, Rubens, we have Delphine and her family, people that sheltered those who were in danger, people who were being hunted down, and put your families, put themselves in danger and endangered you, but people survived and you survived. Did not worry about their own comforts at the expense of human lives. And I'm grateful for that. We can all make that choice, and it's going to make the world a better place. And each one of you in the audience that saw this story is now a witness. And a part of taking that divine protection in your own hands begins with you as a witness. You have a responsibility now to share the stories of survivors, like Rubens' story. It begins with being truthful about our stories. Naming and shaming the perpetrators and their supporters is a must in the process. We have to call them out and we have to make it public. They have to be known. There is no other way. And Rubens, as a journalist, is an eye of the public. He's an eye of the community. And we, the community, must make sure that the eye of the community sees us. And so in seeing us, we must call everybody out and we must make it public, make sure it's well known. And with that, we honor the victims and we dignify the survivors who walk with their heads held high. I hope that Rubens' resilience and humanity challenges you to move and do something helpful against injustice. Injustice is a man-made catastrophe that requires action for each upstanding human being to take a clear stance against it. And we hope you challenge your local and global institutions to create, support, finance, protect these type of atrocities, and that we bring about change. And for that, I'm grateful to my co-host Delphine and our guest Rubens for being witnesses and upstanders, for their contribution to the fight against injustice. I thank you all in the audience for being with us today and taking action as a result. I also thank our sponsors, HMG Studio, Friends of the Congo, Black Star News, and the African Great Lakes Action Network, also known as AGLAN. And I turn it over to our platform host, HMG, Freeman Bikorwa. Over to you, my brother.
Wow, Claude, my goodness, Delphine, Rubens, you guys are amazing. I mean, you've done it all today.
Thank you, Freeman.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful today to such a marvelous story. I'm exceedingly humble, as one of our greatest men has always been telling us. And I just can't, you've said it all. You've said it all. I am super grateful to all our viewers worldwide. But one of the biggest gratefulness that I am today is that we have the opportunity to tell our story, our ways. These are untold stories from Rwanda. And I am truly grateful that we have the opportunity to bring them to you all. Unfiltered, unaltered, from the real people. These are testimonies of our brothers and sisters who are still alive today. And I just want to encourage each and every one of you who has a story to rise up and to speak up. Nobody else is going to tell your story like you have it. So speak up. We have the platform right now. We have the desire. We have the heart for it. And we are going to do it one way or the other with no apologies. I just want to echo that so that all of you guys would know. We will do it again and again and again and again, and we are not going to stop. What has happened in Rwanda, the genocide that has taken place in Rwanda, the atrocities that are continuing to exacerbate the situation in the country, the mass murdering, the situation that no one wants to be a part of it. It's taking lives, not just for our brothers and sisters in Rwanda, but the entire Great Lakes region. The instability, it's just egregious. And with that in mind, I am so grateful again to all of you who have tuned in for this live broadcast. Thank you to our worldwide audience for also tuning in. Thank you to our viewers on platforms such as YouTube, the social medias, and those of you who are carrying it to other platforms that we use like Amazon, Primes, and all of that. We are so grateful. And we are promising you guys that we are bringing more and more stories like this because you cannot hear them from anywhere else but here. And with that in mind, thank you so much again, Claude, Gatebuke, my brother, and my dear sister, my queen, Delphine, and our king, Rubens, thank you. And with that in mind, I just want to say, until next time, guys, it's Freeman, Senior Anchor with HMG News. I want to wish you all a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Until next time, so long.